Thank you for joining us for tonight's event. My name is Nick, and I'm one of the events hosts here at Powell's Books. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to check out our lineup of upcoming and virtual events by visiting our website at powells.com. One of the many events we're looking forward to is Larissa Pham in conversation with Mary H.K. Choi about Pham's new memoir and essays, Pop Song, this Thursday, the 6th. If you don't already do so, please consider following us on social media. Tonight, we are excited to welcome Kristin Hersh and John Doe. Kristin Hersh is a solo artist and founding member of the bands Throwing Muses and 50 Foot Wave. She's the author of Don't Suck, Don't Die, Giving Up Vic Chestnut, and Rat Girl, which was named one of the 10 best rock memoirs ever by Rolling Stone. Hersh's beautifully written new memoir takes readers into an emotional journey through her life as she reflects on 30 years of music and motherhood. Doony, Ryder, Wyatt, and Bodhi, the names of Hersh's sons, are the only ones included in her new book, Seeing Sideways, a memoir of music and motherhood. As it unfolds and her sons' voices rise from its pages, it becomes clear why these names tell the story of her life. This story begins in 1990 when Hersh is the leader of Throwing Muses, touring steadily, and the mother of young son Doony. The chapters that follow reveal a woman and mother whose life and career grow and change with each of her sons. The story of the custody battle for Doony is told alongside that of Hersh's struggles with her record company and the resulting PTSD. The tale of breaking free from her record label stands in counterpoint to her recounting of her pregnancy with Ryder. A period of writer's block coincides with the development of Wyatt as an artist and the family's loss of their home. And finally, soon after Bodhi's arrival, Hersh and her boys face crises from which only strange angels can save them. Punctuated with Hersh's own song lyrics, Seeing Sideways is a memoir about a life strange enough to be fiction, but so raw and moving that it can only be real. Joining Hersh in conversation tonight is John Doe. He's a founding member of the groundbreaking punk band X, which has recorded 10 solo records and as an actor has appeared in over 50 films and television productions. In April of 2020, X released Alphabet Land to great critical acclaim and overwhelming joy from their fans. As one of the last original punk rock bands standing, they continue to tour. Doe is currently working on his 11th solo album at his new home in Austin, Texas. This evening's event will include an audience Q&A, so please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen if you'd like to ask a question. As well as if someone has typed a question that you'd also like to know the answer to, please upvote that particular question by clicking the thumbs up button. Most importantly, please consider supporting Kristin and Powell's by purchasing a copy of our new book from us, her new book from us. A link to buy Seeing Sideways will also be shared in the chat a couple of times this evening. Kristin, John, it's such a pleasure to welcome you, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, you're welcome.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to get right to it. Hi, Kristin.
Hi, baby.
I miss you.
Yeah.
Number one,
I believe Valentine's Day, Chicago, something like Skokie, Illinois, the next morning. Last time I saw you.
Oh my God.
It was like 4 out.
Yes, 4 degrees.
Yeah.
So cold.
It's a good breakfast, though.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
was.
good diner tour breakfast.
Indeed. So how does it feel to have this book out in the world?
Can I say awful? I think
No.
I have to say that.
Really?
I buried myself in it for
Yeah.
5 years. You know, it was my editor's idea. He said, if I time it right, you'll be facing empty nest when it's published. And I said, that's awful. He said, yeah, you can do it. And I got lost in it. I started waking up at 3 a.m. and going back in time. You know, that's when you can remember color and texture and voice is the best. And it was a nice, time trippy place to go for 5 years. And I got so lost in it that I forgot anybody was gonna read it, and I don't really need anybody to know anything about me. But I have a problem with not telling the truth. Not that I have to tell the whole truth, but I don't think I should say anything unless I know that it is true and I lived these stories. And so it's a little bit hard to not let go of them, but try and remember everything that I said out loud.
Right. Well, that brings me to the main question, which was, did you make up all the band banter and interview questions, or did you actually remember them, or like listen to? It sounds like you're listening to a specific interview when you have those quotes in there.
I talked to journalists, and because neither of us owns the actual interview,
Mm-hmm.
I had to combine different interviews and say, like, is this what we talked about? Because this is how I remember it. And did you say this? And did I say this? And it is funny. It's like self-hypnosis to go back, and you do overlay conversations until they're encapsulated. How often do you have the same conversation? So I'm lucky in a book that I can use a representation of a conversation that has happened 100 times. And even
Right.
with bandmates, they tend to just be overlaid impressions that you repeat year after
Yeah.
year. When you write it's 30 years long, you can leave out all the boring shit, in other words.
Well, you certainly kept in all the beautiful imagery, and I mean, I'm really taken with the writing. The first chapter, it's so wonderfully kind of disorienting. Like I I I didn't know the actual backstory to that time, and so it was trying to piece together these things, trying to piece together like what's happening.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure that so I mean, do you want to just read some of the beginning?
So glad to hear you say that, because you said wonderfully instead of just regular disorienting.
No, it was great because it was kind of it was wonderfully mysterious, and I wanted to find out more about it, so I kept reading, and sometimes those the words that were, or sentences that were in italics were like, oh, I get it, when. But anyway, do you want to?
PTSD is like, so that the first chapter is supposed to feel the way I felt then, which was completely disoriented in time and slapped around by what was happening. And so I would slip out of time. And to want to go there, I think it's asking a lot of a reader. So it's nice that you can color it thusly. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of throwing down the gauntlet, and you get a lot of respect for that, because a lot of times you want to lead with something that's accessible, and something, and so you're, again, like a freaking courageous, like, come in swinging.
Thank you, sweetheart. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't start with the hits.
What?
I did not start with the hits.
Yes, but you came in punching, came in swinging.
Yeah. I'll go. Thank you, baby. When the ball of fire rolled across my kitchen, I was sitting at a green ceramic table with a man who'd once saved my life in a freezing, whirling Malibu ocean. Point Doom, where the Statue of Liberty turns up at the end of Point. We called it Point Doom, but even the rescue was pretty goofy. The Pacific gets cold, clean but hard to think, makes you sluggish, stupidish. The man said my mute little body felt like a sack of potatoes as it was swept away, had no internal mechanism, no wherewithal, and the beach monkeys just sitting there watching. those little Malibu ground squirrels. It was TV to them. I was a strong swimmer, but sleepy and unwilling to fight again. More of a wait and see swimmer anyway. Guitar and baby had grown my muscles up to pretty hard. Then pretty hard life froze them into still fibers wrapped around bones. Because they wouldn't fight for me. They were just looking for a fight, any fight. Bones are steady, wait and see swimmers, but muscles twitch and react, and you got to hold them back like surly drunk so you don't get the shit beaten out of you again. Bones remember. The man's giant hand thrust itself through the surface into the salt realm where I'd been tumbling in and out with the tide, cut up on rocks, gradually getting the feel of not breathing. It was surprisingly easy. Now that's a useful muscle. Think of all the fun we could have if we exercised our right to not breathe. Note to self. Don't forget how suddenly an epiphany grabs your face and yells at it, then kisses you on the cheek and wanders off, not even sticking around to watch you flail, see if you learn to fucking deal. Stupid epiphanies. Down again into churning green salt. Second note to self. Ow, but your lungs freak. And the green salt asks, what are you gonna freeze and what are you gonna let burn up? What are you gonna zombify and what do you want to disappear tonight? Right now, 2 fucking nights, set it on fire. I mean, on the off chance that any of this is up to you, which it probably isn't, but it's how we seem to get by. I think I'm writing this story. Third note, also, your heart goes nuts. When air and land happened again, I couldn't stop laughing. The man found nothing funny, which made it way funnier. Dripping and laughing, the beach monkeys and I were on the same page. TV to the man. There's a cop standing on the front porch. There's always a cop standing on the front porch. In some dusty corner where the fire-bellied newts who'd committed suicide escaped, they hated living with us so much. Maybe the dark devil's chasing us, or maybe they didn't like fish food. Maybe newts have their own dark devils, I don't know. The newts bummed me out. Whatever their deal was, it wasn't really my fault. Unless it was captivity, which it could have been. But their breathless freedom took the form of expiration. They didn't like our world, became ex-newts in it. Their inertia was actual stillness, actually breathless. They stopped breathing, which I would have killed to do. I'd learned that skill in Malibu while the beach monkeys watched, but there was love and a child. Apartment life doesn't suit those looking to slip into marshy reeds, and I could relate, but only ish. There was manic love and a depressed child. Seismic activity like manic depression you gotta honor. Life is manic, it is depressed, it is intense, it is full, it is everything, including numb and shut down when numb and shut down happen, which isn't often enough for most of us. So we numb ourselves and shut each other down, spreading the love. This does not mean we are manic or depressed. It means that life is what it is. Marshy reeds are for those who aren't called to duty. No mud was going to take me yet. No mud would have any of us because we had each other. Oh, I can't hear you.
Also, I wouldn't, there we go. That's so great. So wonderful. And how do you feel like you can trust the audience to come along?
Oh.
I mean, because you're in a scene where you're getting pulled out of the ocean, and then suddenly there's a cop on the porch, and that's like a recurring thing throughout that whole chapter, and actually throughout the whole book, right? This image. Did you just say, screw it, you got to come along, or did you have to battle with like, how far do I trust that people are going to go with me? Or
I did. It's funny you call it a scene, because that seems to be what helps you find the beauty. I figure even if it's an awful place to go. If you find a beauty, then that's an invitation. By invitation, I mean, you can do this. You can do this. And PTSD is not something I want to share, and neither is what happened to cause it. But there is a beauty to everything, and it's usually found in gravity and texture, color, the verbness of all your words. And that's as close as I can get to an invitation to a story I was never going to tell. People asked for the sequel to Rat Girl for so many years, and I just said, I wouldn't do that to you. It's too awful. It's too sad. Rat Girl ends triumphantly, and it's just destroyed by what happened next. But I had to go back and realize that it was wrong. Ugly is always wrong. What happens here is beauty, and it's not comfortable, and it's not painless always, but that's as close as I could get to trusting the reader to want to go to this place. And when the scenes play out, instead of getting lost in dream and verbiage, that sort of brings you back to planet Earth, which we call it grounding for a good reason. Like, all right, we're here. The ground is here. It's not all flying up into the ether.
Well, it's incredible the way that there's so much imagery, and you can get lost in that imagery and just enjoy what's going on with that.
Well, that's good.
And then it's like over the chapter, you can start feeling like you're piecing the story together, right?
Right.
Once you start getting into so did you begin at the beginning? Did you begin someplace that was maybe not as difficult to talk about?
Yeah.
Or where did you begin? Because like and also where did you begin, and did each son like decide how you were gonna write it? Because it changes as each period of your life goes on.
Thank you
right?
for
Yeah.
I did start at the beginning. I started with the first sentence, which is why I read the beginning.
Wow.
And I kept bringing it back to this table. I remember getting books from editors that they thought I would like. I suspect because I'm female, and I'm really not. These are people that can't possibly know me if they think that.
Right.
They were also slow, and they would say things like, I want to know what the doorknobs are like. And I thought, I really don't. I don't want to know what the doorknobs are like. I want to know what's happening. And yet I kept returning to this green ceramic table that was in this apartment I rented just by looking in the window because I had nowhere to go. I was homeless after the road. My son was just taken. And all I had in the world was this green ceramic table. And so it just kept coming back to that every time it would go off into New Mexico or Crazy Cat Comics or Ball of Fire, which there really was a ball of fire that rolled through my kitchen. Ball lightning is called, and it rolled from one wall into the opposite wall.
Where was this?
This is it was in Rhode Island. It was right next to the green ceramic table. We were sitting there, and this big ball of fire just rolled through the room.
See, my jaw is.
Yeah, well, that's why I used an image. I was watching the movie Ball of Fire, and it's like from the 30s, I think, and we had fireballs, like cinnamon fireballs of candy hanging in the kitchen. So that image was sort of thrust upon me. It wasn't really my fault. And then I realized maybe this 4 years into writing the book that the green ceramic table was right in my living room. I didn't think I owned anything for 30 years, but I had been writing the book with that table. But anytime I started spinning off, I would use, there's no one to say, Chris, wake up, like they used to then. So I'd have to do it for myself to escape this time. And it's just like, Chris, wake up, you're at the green ceramic table. Like another conflagration maybe, but you can be.
Well, how do you mean, Chris, wake up? I mean, from like as you're writing or as you're experiencing it, or both?
Both. I had to relive it. Memoir is memory, so it's impressions. And I have an odd relationship with memory anyway, because I was dissociative, so my memories were blocked. A lot of my memories were only in music, and but my other memories were photographic. So that's strange. Memoir is going to be odd coming from disorientation anyway. And then to really throw yourself into another time, you have to draw yourself out of your own selfhood in both directions.
Right.
It's like, I guess we wake up from dreams somewhere here. It's something like that.
Wow. So how how did you learn to start doing it for yourself? Who was doing it prior, and how did? Well, let me back up. I want to know when you decided, or what was the invention of the man, which I think is freaking awesome. He's always referred to as the man. I'm having a little hard time hearing you, so I'm going to try plugging in something. I may have to go to headphones. So I'm just warning you.
Pro.
What's that?
Very pro.
I am gonna go to headphones. But so how did the man get invented, which I think is brilliant?
I didn't want any names. The last thing I wanted this to be like was a rock memoir.
Yes.
I didn't name any bands. I didn't want to name any people except for these children whom I don't really view as people. I see them as nature, as my view, that I'm tasked with their survival. And I learn most of what I know from them, not unlike songs, but the physicality of them is a nice animal orientation to write from. But if you started engaging with adults, and this book is kind of about animal versus civilization, meaning childhood versus adulthood, they'll bring you down into an egoic sphere that I didn't think was a healthy place to be. If I wanted to highlight the ugly parts of the music industry or the entertainment industry or our Western culture and say, well, this should be ludicrous, it wouldn't play out as ludicrous if I were already orienting myself that way. But if it's just the kids and the kids' voices and nature and animals and music and your animal self, then civilization and its messes will appear as damaging as they really are and as cartoonish as they really are. And this is why cartoons are important. We laugh at ego instead of becoming it and suffering that damage. Did I answer your question?
I don't know. I was lost in the I was lost in trying to figure out.
Well, now you're quiet, baby.
Now I'm quiet?
Yeah.
How about now?
Ooh, that's
How
good.
about now?
Now you sound like a pilot. But yes, man has no name. My drummer and
What's that?
the man has no name because he was an adult. And
Yes.
my drummer and bass player, who are actually different people in different parts of the book, also have no
Right.
name. It was a healthy device
Right.
that way too. But
Right.
they play the
Well,
same in life, so it was fair for the story to play out that way.
right, right. So I'm unclear on how cartoons are related to ego, because that is really interesting to me.
You're good at ego. You are smart about this stuff.
Oh, no, learning. I only figured out what it even how to define it like maybe 2 years ago. Before that, it was just oh, that's that thing I don't have to worry about.
Problem anyway. You don't need to worry about it. Cartoons
Yeah.
are a way to laugh at what is most dangerous here, what is most cruel and selfish. You blow it up to parade float size, then you can laugh oddly, because that's when it's scariest. I mean, look at Trump, and Daffy Duck was better, and
Daffy Duck was who?
was better than Trump.
Yeah.
Laughing at
Yes.
wanting to be in the spotlight, at that kind of ego cruelty, and that version of selfhood. Trump might not have happened. The childhood is an aware place to be because of that animal and cartoon orientation, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ego is the scariest thing we have going on. And this country, our major export is the entertainment industry. And so we got to watch that.
Right. Right. So, do you how do you I'm going to refer to my notes here if you don't mind. So how did you experience that, like, in music industry as a woman? How did you how did you feel that like, was it different from the major record companies to the indie record companies? I know this is a big, and you can pick and choose, because in the second, third chapters you kind of go into that in more detail, and which is great, because I mean, there's this beauty of the first chapter, which is all these kind of wonderful impressions of just feeling, and like being in touch with your kind of unconscious, or just getting it as like there's a lot of fragmentation, which I can understand in your situation would happen, right? So, and you're like spent the rest of your life trying to put those pieces back together. and I imagine that writing that chapter was pretty therapeutic, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
Yeah, it had to be over.
yeah.
I was recently treated for that PTSD, so I lived with the triggers for a long time. And it was time for it to truly be moved back in time, which is really
Mm-hmm.
the only definition of that coping mechanism, that it's unstuck in time.
Right. So you felt like you could exercise it more by seeing it on paper, or by reliving the experience?
I think I wanted Doony to know that I was there, that I fought for him, that
Right.
it was all love. In a hurricane, it's hard to see that there's any safety at all, and there isn't really. So he learned
Right.
that. But if there's love in the hurricane, that's the only stability there is on solid ground.
Right. Right. And what's his reaction been after seeing the book?
We don't have any copies yet. I have one here.
Oh no.
Don't tell him how it ends.
Well, I was actually a little pissed off at Nick for giving that whole synopsis of the book, because it's like, you just told the ending. I mean, you just told everything. It's like, no fair. But we'll pretend that we didn't hear that. So, okay, getting back to the experience of the business world, which is like the Hunter S. Thompson description, you know, a plastics tube where, you know, I don't know if you've read that quote that Hunter S. Thompson said about the music industry. Yeah. It's, you know, and where, yeah.
Only fair.
Well, yeah.
Well, you know what it's like when you start and there are real people in the audience. I hate to put it this way, but it's just normal. You know, I mean, I had y'all for my heroes, and I wasn't gonna bullshit for that reason. So there we were with just enough people, and they were treating us like electricians. We just sort of facilitated a current through their homes and made an honest wage. And when we spoke with them, there was no, there was a, we were sharing something. We had just held up a hover song in the room together.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed first after saying with the major was that those people were just gone. There was nothing left but a horde of, I want to say fans instead of listeners.
Mm-hmm.
They put you on a pedestal just to knock you off. There's odd bullying effect for somebody who's trying to kiss up to you. I clearly had created an inflammatory response in people that was really unhealthy. And I couldn't find people anymore that seemed musically literate, meaning they hadn't lost their original response to sound, so something visceral. This was like trendy, like hardly any women. All the women were like girlfriends, and then a bunch of baseball caps. Everybody wanted to hear like the dumbest song that you know what it's like. But
no, I actually don't know what that's like. I had to, you know, go through some of the stuff with looking for a hit and all this other kind of bullshit. But you had a real. I'm assuming that the first part you're talking about, the Fort Apache and all the early stuff. When you guys, you made your first 3 records with them?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Until you were starting to do, was it with 4AD first, and then they were with some other
Yeah, we didn't
American?
put records out in America. We signed with the British label because
They got it.
one deal. I mean, one record deal. So I thought, all right, I don't know how it happened. Those things just sort of snowball. And Ivo, the guy who signed me to 4AD, said, yeah, you should be on a major label. Better you than somebody else. And you sort of follow that logic.
Yes.
And they kept saying, well, just give us one stupid song and you do the rest, whatever you want with the rest of the record, it's yours. And it's like, you know, you kind of do that for a while. And then you find yourself in the middle of, well, the second chapter in this book where I'm fucking topless in the Spin magazine fashion shoot and thinking, this is not music. None of this is music. And y'all are fucked. And I got to get out of here. And having hidden from fans all those years, I cut it just cold. It's like, I'm leaving, I'm out of here. And I don't know that I helped any women by extricating myself from the industry, but at least I wasn't part of the problem. And it's a really, really serious problem. So gradually over the years, I made a kind of career out of just music and no, you know, bullshit, no fashion. And I didn't want to suck. I didn't want to suck as a person. I didn't want to suck as a musician. And I know it is different for men, and that's a reason for me to boycott this industry. But it's a reason to keep working too. And So eventually I realized, oh, there are listeners. There's still listeners out there. That wasn't just a teenage thing. And
Right.
that's who I have. That's who my listener supporters are now. Strange angels are the people who, they just don't treat me like I ever even wanted to be a rock star, because I didn't. I never wanted to be a pop star. I didn't want to do what had to be done, and I don't even want to be looked at. The only part of the job I'm good at is the music part. Everything else I really suck at.
Well, even when you're talking about that somewhat hellish experience of being the bride and groom and all that, there's a beautiful otherworldliness, like you're still in touch with your unconscious or subconscious, so that as a reader, I felt like I was seeing it through like a film lens, or it had been, cut together in such a way that it was like you were somehow removed from it. I know it was actually happening to you, but at the same time, I got that feeling of like, I'm watching myself do this. This is so fucking weird.
It is so fucking weird. And
yeah,
we're just used to it. I remember when I realized, oh God, they don't make me do fucking photo shoots and videos anymore. I win. And he said, no, you failed. Failing. I was like, okay, I'll take it. Whatever works.
well, I remember clearly talking to another musician friend who said, I was so relieved when I realized I didn't have to be part of the big game.
Oh yeah.
I just could be part of this other little game that can be my invention, or however I want to do it. So I'm assuming, I mean, what was it for you that kind of gave you permission, or where you felt like, okay, this is how it's going to run from now on, or how did that, because you've obviously made peace with doing what you are good at and not doing what you don't like. So how did that, was it just over time? I mean, was there a place in the book that you kind of felt like that was happening?
I think I do it every year. It's the job musician, unrelated to the climb of the entertainment industry. And that there's a lot of troubleshooting. So being listener supported helps.
Mm-hmm.
And touring constantly helps, trying to make an honest living. I think that another reason there are no names in the book is because I dislike that term name. They say name, meaning you're more important than another person. He's a big name.
Right.
Oh, ludicrous. And, I obviously talk about Conan O'Brien in the book, and he was wonderful. But the whole point of him is not that he has status and attention. And, I don't even want to start on the money question. Music, I don't want it to sound lofty, but when you liken it to prayer, it just means focus. All I'm troubleshooting for is the opportunity to focus. And however I can do that. If I need to do it in front of people, okay, I'll stand on a stage. If I need to record it and still it in time, then I will do that. And I'll try to bring the beauty there as well. But yeah, it's a problem that needs to be solved every 6 months or so.
Right. Well, I wish that you had you for a role model. That's all I could say, because
that is so beautiful. Well, you helped give me Exene.
well, true, but yeah, we all figure it out in the way that we can, but I want to get into like the hearing music and the synesthesia that you kind of write about. Is it in the 3rd chapter? I think so.
Mhm.
It's I think it's the chapter about Wyatt,
Yeah.
where you're back in New Mexico, and you're ordering, or the man is ordering breakfast, hot chocolate, and then suddenly you're weeping. So do you want to talk about that a little bit, or?
Synesthesia my whole life. That
Yeah.
wasn't from car accidents or anything or trauma. It just is. I just see music in color. And when I moved to the desert, there's up above Joshua Tree, like real high desert. It snows.
Yeah.
And it's very, very quiet. You've been Pioneer Town. And
Yep.
I was quiet too. My brain just stopped playing music, and I stopped hearing it in the world except for what blows through the whispering pines, what the coyotes were doing. I thought it was wonderful. I didn't miss it because you can't miss something that you aren't hearing. And I still had to tour. I toured the record I had made, and my quiet stopped in a cafe because there was a music lesson going on behind me that I didn't see. I was ordering coffee, and I just could see the music coming out of the speakers, and it was a little acid trippy. It wasn't a return to normal for me. It was odd, but I could see the music, and I knew that sounded like a stone roommate thing to say. But I was crying and nobody knew why. And my husband whipped around and there's a guitar in the back of the room with herbs burning over it. And he said, my wife is crying about music. And these guys said, oh, sorry, we're doing a music blessing. We must have missed the guitar and hit your wife in the back of the head. The guy,
Lucky.
you know, he's been fasting. He spent money on his music blessing, and I got it instead of him. So he's like, well, if you just play my guitar for a while, maybe something will rub off. I'm like, can I pay you? But he was awesome. Leonard Crow Dog. It's like, I may have used his name in the book because I had a crow dog.
Yes, a dog named Crow.
Crow out in
Yes.
the But yeah, that's how I got my music back.
Wow.
Free. I am fat.
Say that?
I didn't have to fast or anything.
Well, to your good fortune. So how long was the period between moving to Pioneer Town and this happening?
Maybe a 2-year span.
Wow.
With silence, and the rest of my life really been pretty noisy.
Well, do you get how does it feel when you go back to Pioneer Town?
I just played there, right before you and I went on tour with Grant.
Yeah.
And the guy who built our house was at the show. He used to play checkers with Ryder when he was a little kid, and
oh, right.
And he recognized Ryder, who is 6'5" now.
Yes, I did peek at that. I haven't finished that chapter. That's I'm coming clean, but I did peek at the very end and I saw that part, which is
fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Just like a year ago. It's beautiful.
Some games of checker never end.
That's it. Wow, you're good.
Well, I just remember that so you haven't had any feedback from the boys, but all throughout the book you're inserting the interviews, or you're inserting what the band might have said during a certain experience. You're also inserting song lyrics. So how did you decide what goes where, and was it cut and paste? Was it just like flowing, like, oh, this would be a good place for it? Or how did you figure all that out? Because it seems it's like a wonderful construct, but it mystifies me. I don't know. I wouldn't have a clue as to how to do that.
I think it's like 5 years of holding the same thing in your head. It just starts peppering itself with what it needs. The best place to get to with a book is when it starts writing itself. At first, it's a little bit clever, maybe, or a little
Mhm.
off. And then when you find the voice for real, you're just writing it down. And adding the songs is my only way to truly express reality. I see this place as reductive, like just a version. This is the memoir, and the songs are just kind of ongoing. That's the real world. So if I didn't include songs, I would be lying a little bit.
Mhm. So you were actually writing some of the impressionistic stuff, passages, and then just in your mind, it's switching to the like, oh, this is when the band and I were talking about this, and it would just flow from one to the other because it seems so. Uh, I don't know. It's just it's mystifying to me.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, wonderfully, and in that, like, of course, it could happen simultaneously, but it's yeah. You're really good.
What do you? Are you I didn't know that's what you were saying. I,
Basically.
we were sort of reliving these stories, me and my bandmates too, and they would remind me of things that happened, and I would, check on some other things, and then they remembered parts of conversations I didn't remember, and then of course we'd have them again. So yeah, memoir is impressionistic.
Right.
No real way to check on it, but if I'm trying for the beauty, I know there's no lying in it. It's just not the whole truth. Maybe the whole truth is really boring.
Yes. Well, that's why a lot of music biographies are not that great. Oh,
Yeah,
shit. Wait a minute. I just looked at the time.
yeah.
Holy moly.
Take other people's questions.
I think we should. I'm just going to ask one more. So how do you think you defined success earlier on, and how has it changed at all, if at all?
I don't think it changed. My problem was having it taken away. I wanted to write the next song always, which is
Right.
that's actually a lot to ask for. It's not that I refused to work a day job, but I wanted to focus on music and make these songs really great, and I wanted to be challenged by them, meaning that other people would be even more challenged by them. So it was a lot to ask. My goal was to live in a van to do this, and that's where I ended up.
Check.
Aim low, son.
Yeah.
Didn't change at all, and that has never occurred to me before. So thank you. I'm humbled.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I thought when I moved to LA, like I want to be as successful as the Velvet Underground, and it's like, oh shit. Maybe I should have aimed a little higher.
This is X.
Okay, I'm going to look at this, the questions and answers. I hope I can figure that out. Oh my God. Kristin, I loved your recording of Don't Suck, Don't Die. Any plans to record your reading of Rat Girl and Seeing Sideways?
They told me to bring a therapist and a massage therapist to Don't Suck, Don't Die session. And the night before, my engineer called and said, Chris, you're gonna fucking die. You can't do this. I was like, oh my God, really? I just thought I was reading. I read for a living. And he's like, no way, man, you're gonna fucking fall apart. You gotta get some actor to do it. And I was like, yeah, well, what if they do it wrong? And I already said I was gonna.
Mhm.
And it was awesome. It was really fun. The book is mostly funny. He doesn't die until the end. And
Right.
then, we both cried, as you do.
Right.
But, okay, I think I could do it. It's kind of a long book. And there's a lot of dialogue. Like imitating Vic, you can sound like you're making fun of him.
Yeah.
Imitating
Very
like, I think they might be mad.
right. So yes, you're going to record this, or you have already?
They have to ask me to do it. It's like an Audible thing. I don't know.
Well, You should,
Okay.
because the very beginning you read terrifically. Okay, somebody says, not a question, just thank you for writing this book and sharing your personal stories with us. Because you're awesome. Are you influenced or inspired by any other writers? And if so, who?
Natalie Angier, the science writer from New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
I read a lot of science books.
Is that, do you consider yourself a junior scientist?
Yeah, I majored in immunology. And I had to choose as a teenager between scholarship, study medicine, and a recording contract. And it's possible that I chose wrong.
So you have a lot in common with Jethro from the Beverly Hillbillies, who once said, "Jed, I think I figured out what I want to do. I just can't decide whether it's a brain surgeon or a fry cook."
Yeah, I got a little SpongeBob in me too.
I think the world is a better place for you for the choice that you've made. How, and I mean that, you made the right choice. There's no doubt about it. Okay, anonymous attendee says, how have your boys helped you see the beauty when life situations may otherwise be clouding that?
They wear the cloud well,
Mm-hmm.
and they go beyond laughing at ego with cartoon, and they make this place a picture of here. They're very good at removing themselves from the experience by throwing themselves into it. They don't question whether or not they're comfortable or in pain, but whether or not they're here. And here is generally a better place to be than worrying about it.
Good answer. How has your writing process changed, if at all, since writing Rat Girl?
Rat Girl was clever for 2 whole years. Clever's the worst.
Mm.
And then the next 2 years, I got better at remembering. Like my friend Betty and Rat Girl is dead, and I couldn't call her up and ask her to talk and describe her anymore, or ask her about stories that we shared. I had to just remember all of it, not just what I wanted to remember. And it turns out everything she said was true. Everything she said came true. I thought she was anachronistic or crazy, or well, she was kind of both, but she wasn't entirely bonkers, because she was right about everything. And this book is how right she was.
Right.
I had no clever to go to. I just jumped in to the dream.
Mm-hmm. So, did you have a schedule, or how much was inspiration? How much was perspiration? Because you were saying that you woke up 3 a.m. when, things are quiet and things are clear, and you can be in that sort of, not dream state, but that in between thing. So did you have it set an alarm, or did you just wake up?
I was so excited. I was like, get up earlier every morning. I drove people nuts. It's like, hey, I get to work on a book now.
Wow.
Such a dork.
Yeah, but a lovable dork anyway. You write some of the most memorable prose I've ever read. What was the most stimulating section of this book to write?
I found that I was really bad at writing about things I wished never happened. So if that's stimulating, then Wyatt in the hospital, and it helped to go back to that kid orientation, the way my sons throw themselves in to not hurt so much. And there was a beauty there. But the last time I read it for, the copy editor, I just said, this is the last time. I'm doing this.
Right. Well, good. I'm glad for that. Oh God, somebody said, can I give a tour of the artwork behind me? No, I can't. uh, what was your first impression? No, that's another dumb question. Okay. You speak so eloquently about the parts that you didn't want to share or didn't need to be in the book. Did you have to fight for those silences with editors, agents, or even yourself?
Wow,
That's heavy.
Yeah. When you're writing the truth, there is a lot of collateral damage that's possible. And
Mhm.
I'm a very kind person, but
I agree. You are a very kind person. Yes.
truth isn't always kind.
Right.
So I soften blows and edges, and I spared the reader from a lot that I had to live through. Actually,
Mhm.
you write about 30 years, and not only do you take out the boring parts, you also add in the exciting parts. It makes my life look fucking cliff dive.
Action-packed. The action-packed. That could have been your title. The action-packed life of Kristin Hersh.
Because they're all in my son's voices. The last chapter is Bodhi, who's like buckshot at life, just bing, 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 bing.
Right.
And it served those few years that I was writing about, which I was still living in. I finished the book as I was, I was in the paragraph that I wrote that is the last paragraph. And that's not a bad way to look at your life. If you get that opportunity, just say like, all right, well, soften some blows and then like just fire buckshot every now and then.
Right.
But
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that there's no reason to be mean. There's no reason to be cruel. There's no reason to rub people's noses in something that was difficult. You can convey that difficulty without having to be, I mean, I understand, some performance art and some stuff that's kind of, really tough to look at or experience, but not for me.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
we side with people against their own darkness, and we side with each other against bigger darknesses. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to give you any more than you already have, unless it would help pull you out somehow.
Right. Right. So someone asks if you're working on any other writing projects.
I just finished this book like a month.
Exactly. I had to ask that because I wanted to hear you say that. It's like when you release a record, said, are you working on any other new songs? It's like, I just released a record, motherfucker. What do you want? Or you play and you play some city and they say, so when are you coming back? It says, I'm here, for fuck's sake. What do you want? Good.
Well, I'm still getting up at 3 a.m. So if anybody has any ideas for a new book, I will take them.
Okay. Well, I'll call you. It'll be 5 a.m. my time, so I'll call you at like 3:30. You have a big fan in Mexico City.
Oh.
And that big fan Ernesto says that you're a big inspiration and much love.
That's nice.
Better tell that guy to step off. He's got some serious competition that's already in line. Another question about will there be an audio version, and I say yes. That would be awesome. All right, so it seems like we're almost like out of time as far as my watch is saying. Is Nick going to come back and chase us off? What's
Yeah,
happening?
I'll be here. It's should be coming on.
Okay,
Hi.
there you are.
Hey, yes, absolutely. All right. Thanks so much. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, that was perfect. That was perfect question time. So thank you both so much for coming out and doing this tonight. This was fantastic. And thanks to everyone.
Everybody buy this freaking book because it is so good and it may change your life.
Yeah, and I didn't spoil anything for you. Don't listen to John. Don't worry. Do what I said. Didn't mean to mess it up for you, John. Don't worry.
Okay.
All right. It's yeah. Thanks for the conversation tonight. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And yes, purchase a copy of Kristin's book on Powells.com, or and be sure to check out other upcoming events. And just thanks so much. This was wonderful to have you both here. And have a good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, John.
Bye, Kristin.
Bye, everyone.
I'll call you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Cheers.